Hello, for our project we will be focusing on the community in the zip code 53206. It is a zip code in Milwaukee. Our topic is paving a path for improved mental health, and our group members are Jenna, Taylor, Kenny, and Cynthia. In order to properly guide our interventions, we must create some learning objectives. These objectives will be the basis of goal setting, interventions, as well as evaluating the effectiveness of our interventions within our community that we are chosen. So by the end of this presentation, students will be able to identify the cues and symptoms of post-traumatic stress disorder and link cues to triggers. They will verbalize 3 coping mechanisms to manage feelings of anger, stress, trauma, or anxiety. They will demonstrate the process of cognitive restructuring to manage trauma-related fears and anger. They will utilize positive thinking and self-talk while addressing problems and stressors. They will report a reduction of guilt by understanding the responsibility of the traumatic event that they experienced. They will demonstrate coping techniques specifically targeted at reducing symptoms and severity of PTSD, as well as verbalizing coping techniques available to prepare and handle future exposure to trauma. And they will effectively demonstrate deep breathing and imagery. A community diagnosis entails a much more broad problem in comparison to a nursing diagnosis. When discussing the community in the zip code 53206, a large variety of cultures, values, and norms, power structures, communication methods, and helping patterns must be considered. This community has an extremely high rate of crime and violence in which children are exposed to violent crimes each day. Our strong community diagnosis will paint a picture of what it is like to reside in this community. With that being said, we created a nursing diagnosis focused on the youth population and the unavailability of resources to form effective coping skills. So our community diagnosis is ineffective coping resources among youth in 53206 related to high crime rate, lack of income and resources, as evidenced by 53206 community is the most incarcerated zip code in the United States of America. So we thought this was really important to focus on because as nursing students, we feel like providing these the youth population with resources that can help them with coping would be effective. So here we are going to begin by talking about social skills and positive mental health. So if we were presenting this to the class, we would ask the class first if anyone can define or explain what positive mental health is. So then we would discuss in the class and then say that positive mental health is greater than a lack of mental illness. So it's not just someone without depression or someone without bipolar disorder. It is living life to its fullest extent, being able to feel happiness, coping with our own stressors in daily life, and enjoying socializing with our peers. The childhood years are a time to make positive connections with your peers, be free, spontaneous, expressive. Positive mental health is a vital aspect in this because it allows for children to develop the social skills necessary to develop friendships and relationships with others. In order to develop these social skills, children must learn by expressive play and behavior regulation within the social setting. And then again, with the presentation, we would ask everyone, how do social skills play a role in positive mental health? Our audience would give us some feedback and give us what they think about that, and then we would kind of talk about social skills playing a role. The main idea of social skills are connecting respect and responsibility with your own behavior. It's important to treat your peers with respect as you would like to be treated. The basis of a mutual respect will be a great thing to remember when you're faced with a situation that could potentially be becoming aggressive. Remembering mutual respect will help you to remain calm. So working and teaching social skills, a big thing with that would be play and group activities and discussion to strengthen these skills. So we need to identify a skill that needs to be learned. We need to introduce the skill through discussion and modeling of the desired response. So having positive role models around makes a big impact on positive mental health and the development of social skills. We need to give the rules and alternatives to the rules. We can cue ourselves through self-talk. We can practice our skills through modeling to others, playing games, role-playing, and constant reinforcement of social skills is important. We teach the children to reinforce themselves using self-talk for using the skill. And it's definitely important to give positive reinforcement about using social skills correctly. And then we want to provide opportunities for generalization and reinforcement of the skill in daily play. So overall, with social skills and positive mental health, we just want to make sure we're practicing respect, remaining calm when we are faced with difficult situations, because having these skills can definitely decrease the potential for aggressive behavior.
Studies show that 15 to 43% of both boys and girls will experience at least one traumatic event. Trauma refers to things that may be scary, upsetting, sad, and difficult to talk about. No one should have to experience trauma, but sadly, we know people do. We can see trauma in our communities, in our families, through our friends, and sometimes through random accidents. For someone who experiences trauma, they may struggle with re-experiencing or reliving the moment of that traumatic experience. People dealing with trauma may avoid you or their usual activities. They may display negative or sad, angry beliefs. People dealing with trauma may do things they would never normally do. They may get themselves into trouble by skipping school, starting fights, or even using drugs or alcohol. People dealing with trauma may have problems sleeping. Trouble sleeping could be from having problems relaxing or experiencing bad dreams. How people deal with trauma can look different from person to person. The important thing to know is that it can get better. There are positive ways to handle big emotions and begin to move through and heal from the traumatic experience. Do not be afraid to ask for help through family, friends, or teachers. Sometimes professional help is needed through seeking a counselor. I myself have seen a counselor to help work through traumatic events. It is nothing to be ashamed of. Still, there are ways we can learn to cope with big emotions, and those are some of the skills we want to teach you today. So one of the first techniques I want to teach you is called the grounding technique. This is a way to help you stay present in a situation. So first, take a deep belly breath to begin. Then you're going to look. You're going to look for 5 things that you can see and say them out loud. For example, you may look around and say, I see a tree, the sky, the street light, a building, and a car. Whatever your surroundings are, find 5 items. Next, you're going to feel. You're going to pay attention to your body and think of 4 things that you can feel and say them out loud. I feel the fabric of my shirt on my skin. I feel my heartbeat. I feel the hair on my arm. I feel my breath move in and out. 3, you're going to listen. Listen for 3 sounds and say the things out loud. I hear the cars outside. I hear the clock ticking. I hear the fan running. 2, you're going to smell. Say 2 things you can smell. If you're allowed to, you may need to move to another spot and sniff something. But if you can't smell anything at that moment and you can't move, then name 2 of your favorite smells. Lastly, you're going to taste. Say 1 thing you can taste. It may be the toothpaste from brushing your teeth or a piece of gum you're chewing. If you can't taste anything at that moment, then say your favorite thing to taste. Lastly, you're going to end it again with another deep belly breath. And again, the reason why we do this technique is to help us stay present in a certain situation when our mind may want to wander or be distracted or go back to an upsetting event. When coping with anger, first, stop and think. Calm yourself by taking deep breaths and count slowly. Tense your body and relax. Find a quiet place or sit alone. The most important part is calming down. What else can we do? Find a positive activity to help you relax. This could be writing about your feelings, telling someone how you feel, problem solving, looking at books or reading, drawing, painting, playing with clay, anything artistic. It could be exercising, walking, running, playing basketball. It could be playing music or singing. It might just be resting or taking a warm shower. It could be hugging someone or a pet or a stuffed animal. The important part is finding something that works for you. For example, I love to exercise when I am feeling stressed or angry. I also like to take a hot shower or listen to music to relax. Find something that works for you. If you aren't sure what works for you, then try different activities until you find the one that helps you relax the best. Another great tool is cognitive restructuring. This involves changing our perception and getting rid of irrational beliefs. It's choosing positive self-statements to replace negative self-statements. We can learn a lot by asking what positive things came out of this situation or experience. What did I learn in this situation? And what would I do differently? Try the power of positive affirmations, such as, I am happy, I matter, I will obtain my goals. Positive affirmations can be whatever you want them to be to build yourself up. Some days you may not feel or believe in them, but say the positive affirmations anyways. Repeat them often, repeat them daily, and you will start believing and becoming those affirmations.
A significant part to coping is acting out physical activities that can decrease your emotional response to negative situations, trauma, anxieties, and depression. One of those activities that we're going to talk about is deep breathing exercises. Deep breathing physically changes our body's emotional response by activating our parasympathetic nervous system, also known as the rest and digest response. It is upon breathing out our inhaled breath that engages the parasympathetic response, which is responsible for decreasing our heart rates and blood pressure, thus a decreased emotional stimulation. Given that it is breathing out that stimulates the calming response, it is important to note that the exhale is longer than the inhale during these exercises. A good way to remember this is by calling it the 7-11 technique, kind of like the gas station, coined by Joe Griffin with the Human Givens Couch. Step 1, breathe in through your nose for 7 seconds. Step 2, breathe out of your mouth for 11 seconds. A good way to know whether or not you are performing the technique properly is by noticing that your stomach moves outward with your inhale. If it does not, That could be an indicator that you need to breathe in deeper. Continue breathing in using the 7-11 technique for 5 to 10 minutes and engage in this exercise daily to reap the calming benefits this technique has on decreasing emotional stimulation and strain.
Community outreach programs. In order to leave a positive impact on the youth in the 53206 area code, it is crucial that we introduce them to positive organizations within the inner city of Milwaukee, Wisconsin, to help develop our youth into the new leaders of the city. The next 3 slides will consist of 3 great organizations in the inner city of Milwaukee, Wisconsin, that the children of the 53206 community can get involved with and can help contribute to the development of the city. These organizations will also give our children a safe space to talk about their problems and help fight the PTSD that they are dealing with. And then Kenny's gonna go over his amazing outreach programs that he has been able to work with.
So for our first community outreach organization, we have the Milwaukee Kappa League. The Milwaukee Kappa League is a mentorship organization ran by my fraternity, Kappa Alpha Psi Fraternity Incorporated, the greatest fraternity known to man. Within this organization, we, the members of Kappa Alpha Psi Fraternity Incorporated, we promote professionalism, business-oriented, and community outreach within the young men of Milwaukee, Wisconsin. We mentor young men from the 3rd grade all the way up into the 12th grade when they graduate high school. Throughout these years of mentorship, we always promote going to college, being a community-oriented young man, being professional, and we also encourage leadership. Throughout the Milwaukee Kappa League, we introduce these young men to how to handle business-oriented meetings. We put them in front of the faces of professionals. We have them out in the community with us doing community service projects. And one of our most impactful community service projects that we have accomplished was this past November, where we donated over 5,000 new books to Milwaukee Public Schools. That was phenomenal, and it gave these young men a first-hand experience on how to make a change in their communities. So young men in the 53206 zip code, which we know is the most incarcerated zip code for Black men in America, if we get the young man in the 53206 zip code more engaged within the Milwaukee Kappa League, we'll be able to change the outlook on the 53206 zip code, because once these young men become older, they will continue to go back to that community and uplift their community. And this is where it starts at. This is the first community outreach program that I will have to offer for the 53206 zip code. All right, so this next organization that we have is the We Got This organization. This organization is specifically for the 53206 zip code. This organization gives these kids a safe space to go talk about their problems, talk about the trauma that they've witnessed. But they also promote and use that trauma to promote community service projects in their community. For example, they have food drives, they have community gardening, they have community cleanup days. In the summer, they have a weekly event where they encourage the youth to come out and get involved and be the change. This is a great organization where the youth can talk about their PTSD. And it's often that PTSD in this neighborhood, in this neighborhood, or just in the inner city of Milwaukee, is normalized. Shootings and killings and crime, it all become normalized because we see it so much. It's just a normal day life for us. And that's a bad way to cope with PTSD. I can say from my experience, I became normalized to people getting shot, people getting robbed, people getting killed, people going to jail. It just became a normal part of my life. But until I put myself in a positive space and I was like, wow, this isn't what life is about, then I got the chance to see, like, wow, this is really messed up that my community is suffering through this. And it just creates a cycle. And this organization will be able to break that cycle and will be able to, help push these young men, young ladies in our community to be one of the community leaders and one day give back from their community. Because if we fix the youth, the next years will be fine. So I'm all for this organization. I'm a big fan of this organization, and I have big plans to, incorporate my organization and this organization so we can do some big things this summer. So I'm really, really excited to, get this all going. So we got this. So the last organization I'm here to talk about today is the MKE Fellows organization, and I am a part of this organization as well. The founder of the MKE Fellows organization is attorney John Daniels, and he is from the 53206 zip code. Attorney John Daniels went to law school, of course, and he's became a great city advocate, community leader for minorities in the inner cities of Milwaukee. And this organization is just a part of what he does. This organization provides opportunity for minorities in the inner city to be placed in front of professional CEOs, executives from some of the best companies, organizations in the state of Wisconsin. So, for example, in the summertime, each week there are hiring events specifically only for MKE Fellows, where executives from the Green Bay Packers, Milwaukee Bucks, Milwaukee Brewers, Advocate Aurora, Freighter, Rockwell, Harley Davidson, U.S. Bank, Northwestern Mutual, they come in, they want to hire us. We go there, network with them, and this is just an organization that gives us a stage to broadcast who we are and what we have to offer to companies. And many of my friends who've entered this organization with me landed nice, good, well-paying jobs in the city of Milwaukee right out of college as leaders. And this organization also to help minorities get a better representation in the workforce, because a lot of times when people think of a minority from the 53206 zip code, they automatically think they are a thug or they are bad or they're negative. But this organization allows professionals to get a better representation, and so that minorities can be more represented in these companies. And the youth of the 53206 zip code can definitely benefit from this because there's a lot of talent, there's a lot of smart, there's a lot of success stories that comes out of this 53206 zip code. And I think everybody who lives in this zip code can be a success story and do big things for the city. It just starts with these organizations. So this is another great organization for these kids to be a part of. Being a youth growing up in the 53206 zip code, it can be detrimental to your growth, not because of the community, but because of the negative stereotypes that comes with living in this community. Every time you go in the news, you see crime, murder, robbery, police chase. You go on the internet, 53206 is the worst zip code for African Americans living in the United States. But you know what you never see? You never see the positivity and the beautiful people in the community. And as a kid growing up and all you see is how negative your community is, it can hinder your growth. It can be traumatic to you and make you change your behaviors because you think it's hard for you not to get out of the space that you currently are in. But I'm here to show you that two people that I know personally have made it out of your community. They're doing great things, not only in the city, not only in the state, but in America. So the first person is my fraternity brother, Lieutenant Mandela Barnes. Lieutenant Mandela Barnes is a product of the 53206 zip code. He went to Marshall High School. I mean, he's from the neighborhood. And he went off to college, got his degree, but he came back to his community to uplift kids just like you, college students just like me. He came back to use his passion for community activism and change lives. And now, Lieutenant Mandela Barnes from the 53206 zip code is the youngest lieutenant governor ever in Wisconsin history. He's the first African American lieutenant governor in Wisconsin history. Great accomplishment. He grew up in the same neighborhood as you, around the same stuff you guys are growing up around. Secondly, Kevon Looney. Two-time NBA champion Kevon Looney from Hamilton High School in the city. He grew up in 53206. He went through numerous basketball tournaments, camps, practices in 53206 zip code. Now he's a two-time NBA champion, and he also gives back to his community. He donates money yearly, annually, I should say, to organizations in the city to see the city get uplifted. So as a kid, I know it may be hard at times. I know it may be mentally draining, going to school, waking up, beating systematic racism, beating poverty, beating all the negative stereotypes that people may have of you for growing up in this neighborhood. But it's possible. These are two recent achievements from two awesome people who grew up in your neighborhood. And it can happen. Like, you can beat the odds, and you can become successful out of this zip code. And I think many times, it's detrimental to our youth because they think that they have to become products of their environment. And they don't know have a positive way to cope. But just showing you these two individuals, you guys can make the most of your situation, and you guys will be the next success stories because you guys are already success stories for being here today. So this is just, another part of it. So for this slide, this is basically what we're going to do after our presentation. But due to the coronavirus, we weren't able to give our presentation to the kids. But after the presentation, I was going to give the kids a personal experience from my personal life. Growing up, even though I didn't grow up directly in the 53206 zip code, I grew up a few blocks away in the same struggles and issues that they had in their community. Of course, happened in my community too as well. And, just driving through the 53206 zip code is just a norm for me. I drive through the neighborhood daily for my daily needs. So I definitely experience the same things that they experience. So basically, I was just going to tell them and explain to them how, when I graduated high school, I can name 10 people I grew up with who lost their life to gun violence. And I can name some other people who are in jail now or, who went down the wrong path in life. And that can be traumatizing for a kid. I just let them know how, I was able to, despite the environment around me, remain positive and have successful coping strategies, even though so much trauma was going on in and out of my life. So I came up with 3 coping strategies that I used. The first one was to get engaged in the community. The best way to see change in your community is to get engaged. And since I was 18, I love to volunteer in the community. I love to give back, do cleanups, mentor kids, work with my fraternity, work with other organizations in the city. So it's giving back to the community that, I see needs help and that has caused me trauma. The perfect way for me to expand my horizons and expand people I want to reach is in my own community. So it's best that I, started getting involved in community service projects. So that was a good way for me to cope with the traumas going on in my community and in my life. The second thing I do to cope is be active. I, play basketball, I work out, I go on jogs, I go on runs. And also being active and playing sports is a good way to bring the community together. Because a lot of people from my community get together, play sports together, play basketball, play football, go on runs together, go to the gym together. It's a good positive therapeutic activity that, we could do in order to stay active and stay positively active. And the third thing would help me cope with trauma within my community and my life. Third thing I would say I did was I began to do a lot of self-reflection. And throughout my self-reflection, I decided on, where do I want to be 5 years from now? Where do I want to be 10 years from now? And that self-reflection helped me and motivated me to continue on, with college and doing extracurricular activities and mentoring and everything else I'd say throughout this presentation, just having, just actually sitting back and doing some self-reflection, I was able to, transform the negativity in my life turn into positive. Like, okay, even though this is going on around me, I'll continue to be self motivated and just lead by example, so that the generations beyond me, will be able to look at me as a great figure and like somebody who stayed on the right path. And if I could do it, they could do it. So those are 3 coping mechanisms that I did, and that's how I beat PTSD from living in a community with crime and you lose friends to jail, drugs, gun violence, car accidents. It's a lot to deal with, and I could totally see how kids, especially who deal with this stuff younger than me, get stuck in the system and their mind get clogged up with negativity, and it's hard to beat the system when there's no community sources or community resources for you. So I just want to know that it's possible, and if you guys need anything, I'm here for a resource, and I will give them my phone number, well, not my phone number, but my Facebook, and have them reach out to me if they ever need anybody to vent to. I could show them the ways to go, or point them in the right direction, because I've probably been through it. I've probably witnessed it. I've probably seen it. I've probably felt it. I've probably experienced it. So I think it's part of my duty, especially since I live within the community, is to give back to the community. Instead of talking about it, I just want to be about it. So yeah, that was pretty much what I was going to do for this part of the presentation.
In order for a community to see long-lasting change, interventions must be implemented early on in developmental processing. Thus, providing resources to address the primary issues at hand is essential for 53206 to see improved community outcomes. The link provided lists and elaborates on a student resource that includes thorough educational program planning that addresses feelings of anger, aggression, and violence. Given that resources in the 53206 community are limited in regards to receiving physical, consistent, and concrete support for managing these feelings, we want to provide this structured resource of program planning that can be implemented into the community. If the community were to adopt this programming that is fully structured, laying out all costs for materials, it would provide the students as best an opportunity possible to support their growth, healing, and success in their community through their life's adversities. This provides programming that includes 5 topics specific to acknowledging, processing, and managing feelings of anger, aggression, and violence. Furthermore, the programming educates students on effective tools that can be used when these feelings and harmful acts arise. The 5 subject areas include fighting and violence, anger, managing aggression and violence, including enhancing self-awareness and self-management skills, managing aggression and violence, including coping skills and providing increased motivational factors, and stress management. The comprehensive compilation of these 5 subject areas would provide the students and community a thoroughly enhanced understanding of how anger, aggression, and violence negatively affect those growing up in the 53206 zip code. Additionally, this resource acts to provide necessary educational tools to improve and reshape how the community interprets and reacts to negative feelings associated with anger, aggression, and violence, especially the adolescents in their crucial years of brain development and most impressionable years of their lives.